Good evening. A warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for coming in and tuning into our Wednesday 815 series, Heart to Heart series. And today our talk is going to be on when it's too hard to say goodbye. Right. For those who have just joined in, or maybe this is your first time to join in, I just want to introduce Eirini. It's our counseling services, and it's a professional counseling services, and we have licensed counselor. And this series of heart-to-heart talk is actually organized by Eirini with the objective of helping our community, so that, you know, in this time of pandemic, especially when we are going through challenges, we know that we want everybody to know that you are not alone, and we can go through it together. And usually at the end of the session, we will also provide the list of contacts for all the helplines available, including Eirini's services. So in the event, if you do need some professional help or you need some support group, there will be all this contact number where you can actually call them and get some help or some people to talk to. Right. Right. Tonight, we are very privileged to have Dr. Aziz with us. The reason why we're inviting her for this topic is because we feel that, a lot of us, and especially our friends and relatives, we are going through some kind of loss. Either we have lost our loved ones, or, to COVID or through cancer, or some of us might have lost our jobs, some of us lost our marriages, and some lost our, even like pets, and even, babies through miscarriage. All kinds of loss that we are going through and we've gone through, and some of us are still struggling with this journey of grief, and we may not know how to come out of it. So we thought it would be a good time to have Dr. Aziz with us to share some light with us as some handles. How do we walk through this journey of grief? Right. First and foremost, Dr. Aziz is a licensed counselor. She is also a senior lecturer in the Department of Education, Psychology and Counseling, Faculty of Education in UM. She's also a lecturer of Masters of Counseling in OUM. Right. She specializes in numerous areas, and one of it is actually crisis counseling. That she has been constantly working with her clients in this area. Right. I don't think I will have enough words to actually introduce her and share with you her experience. Let us just pass the time to her. I think she will be able to share with you more of the areas where she specializes and what she does. All to you, Dr. Aziz.
Okay, thank you. A very good evening, and Assalamualaikum to all. Salam sejahtera. So thank you, Angie, the moderator for tonight, and also I would like to thank Elaine. Okay, Elaine, the counselor with Eirini, and also Wei, okay, she is the virtual assistant, and also to all of you that actually find time to join us tonight. So, okay, what do I do? Basically, my area of specialization is in the area of crisis counseling. I also focus on women especially, and adolescents, yeah? All right, so I have actually also been discussing during this the pandemic COVID-19, so I've been sharing a lot of talks on mental health issues. Yeah. So, and tonight I find it very interesting when Angie and Tim actually invited me to give some, sharing sessions on the topic of grief and bereavement. So it is actually something that is very close to all of us, and I'm sure we have all experienced loss in our own unique way. And I'm not sure about you, yeah, to all of you, but looking at the statistics, and probably we can start sharing the slides. Angie, you okay with that? Yeah, thank you. So the title or the topic for tonight, when it's too hard to say goodbye. Okay, so this is something that I find it quite difficult to talk about, but is very a privilege for me to be here tonight with all of you to share on what grief is all about, to give you some understanding of how best we could actually, go through and walk you through this journey of loss. Yeah, so I'm not sure about you, but looking at the statistics each day, so probably we can move on to the next slide, we may. So looking at the statistics each day with no indication of improvement. I think you can see on the screen that today we have 20,780 and I'm not sure about how many has actually passed on the death, okay? And but I remember one time when we saw that 360, the figure, 360 people have actually died due to COVID-19, okay? I'm not sure about you, but to me, this is how I feel. What do I feel really? So when I reflect on the statistics, yeah, I felt, you know, because when we first were hit by the pandemic, I think all of us were really anxious. Yeah, all of us experienced, you know, anxiety maybe, and stress, depression that comes with it later. But what is happening? Okay, when I look at the statistics today, again, like I said, I felt nothing. It is like day in, day out, the same thing. I've been conditioned in a way to expect, okay, yesterday was 1991, today it can be 17,000, hopefully 15K, but when it goes up again, so it's like, what else to expect? So this is what is happening really. So where do we go wrong? Okay, so are we going to blame it on the virus? Now we know that the virus comes in previously when they called it virus, the variant, Indian variant, British or UK variant, but now they don't want to do it. They named it Alpha, Beta, Delta, Delta Plus. So it's like a handphone that's being upgraded, you know, like a handphone that's being upgraded with all these plus, I don't know. And now we're actually going, are we going to blame the Lambda variant, which is said to be more contagious and highly infectious? Are we actually going to do that comparing to the Delta Plus? So then you may, at one time, I experienced this. Is this a conspiracy theory? I'm not sure. Does ivermectin really works? And when earlier, when I saw there's this one MO, and he works in the hospital, and now he works as the MO. He died because of he was overdosed due to ivermectin. So now it makes me worry because the government has just said that it's okay to use ivermectin. Okay, so then when I saw that, so it makes me thinking. So then, is vaccination is making the pharma company richer? What is all this? So should we get vaccinated in the first place? Oh gosh, I've already vaccinated both. I've got both my doses. So now I'm thinking, is it really worth it? So are we turning into zombies? All this might play in, you know, you may think about all this. So these are all some of the questions that you may come across. And what worries us the most? Look at the numbers. With more than 1.2 million, about that, right? That's the figure, positive figures in Malaysia. And more than 8,000 people that has died and no clear end in sight. Some of us may have found tools for coping with loss and stress, which we found is no longer working. So we thought that it could help us, but then I realized personally that, is this working? That, you know, I'm a counselor, registered counselor at that. So it makes me think one day when I just turned to my husband, I said, I'm not sure if I've been sharing about this self-empowerment. I'm not sure if I've been sharing about this, you know, talks that I've been having. Is it really helpful? Yeah, because now people are, dear friends, what you are actually feeling when you thought that stress, that feeling is called grief. Okay, that's grief. Personally, let me just share with you from my the helping professionals, the counselors, the psychologists, the peer support groups, social workers, our doctors, nurses, and I can't possibly list them all, yeah? But we have all been working with people from all walks of life and in vulnerable populations, homeless, abused women, because that's my area, yeah? People who have actually experienced with a lifetime of trauma and mental illness. These are people who are feeling some of the harshest effects of the virus. So we too experience burnout. Yeah, Elaine, we too experience burnout. I was just telling Angie the other day, am I actually experiencing burnout? But because I'm a counselor, I know how to take charge. So I know how to, okay, Aziz, enough, so move on. So I can possibly do that, but are we all experiencing that? So I am in a way grateful for the privileges that I still have, yeah? More than 1 million people that I said have been infected in Malaysia. And we have actually suffered loss. Okay, we are now experiencing what we call as collective grief for those lost and for an entire way of life that probably appears increasingly unlikely to resume as it once was. So we're now talking about new normal. So what is new normal? Because new normal keeps changing. So what is constant? Yeah, so I've actually talked also about adjustment issues, what we call as adjustment disorder. And the losses, the number of losses keeps coming. The COVID-19 death continue to climb. And the distribution of the new vaccines, we heard, like the logistical issues, the healthcare workers are actually having burnout. They're tired, but they're still motivated, thank God, in a way. People are losing homes. So that is what, like I said, and if what happened if the moratoriums expires, and even then the moratoriums that they are actually offering, we've heard so many things about it, and this could actually adds on to more stress that we're actually facing. Yeah, these conditions, all that we are actually facing, combined with the duration of the pandemic, are actually causing many people, you and me, to struggle with the loss of our resilience muscle. You know, from whatever that we do, we always manage to get out of it. So what we learned is we managed to build our own resilience. Okay, so are we reaching, the next question to ask is, are we reaching a new level of profound collective grief for those lost and for an entire way of life? Yeah. So what basically I want to share here is the current situations in which our country is actually going through. We are now going into our second year of crisis. Yeah. So how long have I been staying home, and how long have you been staying home? Well, Angie is working. Elaine, I think you're at home, or are you in the office? You're at home. Okay, great. So this pandemic, if you ask me, is this a crisis? We all know it is. We are facing the uncertainty. One day we were cheering with the stats going down to 15,000, like I said. That's what I do with my boys. We were cheering, yes. So we were hoping that it goes down. And the next day we were very, it saddened us to see that the numbers climb up again to 19K, then today 20K, and then yesterday 19, now 20 again. So we are, I think we're tired of going through the MCO 1, 2, 3. So this can actually cause, in a way, grief. So this is just talking about the pandemic. What about the loss that you have gone through? Yeah. So there is this one study published by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in July 2020 that estimated that every death from COVID-19 will leave approximately 9 bereaved. So I'm just talking about the loss that we're actually experiencing from COVID-19. What about like what Angie says, a miscarriage maybe? Okay, if you lost someone, not to COVID-19, but you can't go back to visit, to give your last respect. So what we are all trying now is, many of us are trying to save each other and try to save ourselves. So are we doing that? So can we, you know, can we still do that? Try to save each other, try to save ourselves. So when I saw that all my friends, sometimes that what I do every day, I kept telling my students, have your own social gatherings in your own way. So every day, 5:30 to 5:40 is my chit chat time with my girlfriend. So we have a cup of coffee, we'll just have a drink, 10 minutes, that's it. We are done with baking bread, cooking, cleaning, crocheting, Zoomed, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, you name it, Dalgona coffee. So a year later, not much has changed. I think now going to 2 years. A year is a long time to keep baking bread and making Dalgona coffee. All right, now, next slide, please. So I am just going to go straight into what the stages that you go through when you're actually grieving. So this is by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. This is one of the 5 stages that I usually will use, or rather apply on my clients. So basically, before I begin with this, I just want you to understand what grief is. Grief is actually a very normal process of reacting to a loss. So grief reactions may be felt in response to physical losses, for example, death, or in response to symbolic or social losses, for example, divorce, or when you lost a job, okay? So each type of loss means that a person has had something taken away from them, okay? So what about bereavement? Okay, although the term is usually interchangeably used, please be careful, because bereavement is actually the grief processes which depends on the relationship with the person who left you, the situation surrounding the death, and the person's own personal attachment to the person who just left. Okay, so here, like I said, grief may be described as the presence of physical problems. Okay, whereas bereavement is the period after a loss during which grief is experienced and mourning occurs. So this is the time spent on how attached you are to the person. Okay, so mourning, what is mourning? Is the process by which people adapt to a loss. So this is also influenced by cultural customs. All right, so now, if you see on the slide, so I talk about the 5 stages of grief. Okay, so the first stage, all right, so there are different stages. Some of them use 5, some of them use 3, some of them use 7. But I'm actually very comfortable using these 5 stages, because to me, I believe that these stages allow you to go through the healing process. Okay, so the first stage of grief and bereavement is denial. Denial is not only an attempt to pretend that the loss does not exist. It is basically the process where you are trying to absorb and understand what is really happening. So recently, when we heard the news that Siti Sarah Raisuddin, our singer, just passed on, everybody was shocked. And when I opened my Facebook, right, so I saw on the screen, it's all about Siti Sarah Raisuddin. You see how her passing has actually impacted all of us. We were in shock, because most of us were hoping that she could survive. She gave birth, she was put to sleep, and she did not survive. So this is when you actually are in denial, because this is a temporary defense for the individual. It helps you to minimize the overwhelming pain of loss. So basically what you're doing here is you are processing the reality of your loss. You're also trying to survive the emotional pain that comes with it, okay? So when you lost someone you love, there is a lot of information to explore and a lot of painful imagery to process. So denial attempts to slow this process down and take us through one step at a time. So rather than you risk the potential of feeling overwhelmed by your own emotions, okay? So this is also the stage when you are becoming stronger. You realize that the denial will begin to reduce or fade. So the next stage is when you're actually feeling what you call that, the anger stage. The anger stage is necessary for you to heal. Okay, so when we talk about healing, this is a common experience. So you'll be very angry. Why her? Why not me? Why him? Why not me? So, and then why God? Why are you punishing me? So you begin to start questioning. Okay, so anger is a process in which you try to adjust to the new reality that finally hits you, that your loved one is gone. So what you experience is basically the overwhelming emotional discomfort. So when there is too much things to process, yeah, so anger is the only way for you to externalize that feelings, yeah, externalize that feeling that you're actually having. The more you feel it, or the more you stay with that feeling, the more you could actually realize that that feeling will begin to dissipate or reduce, and the more you will start healing. So when we talk about anger and the emotions, yeah, this is something that we need to learn how to manage. So anger is basically an indication of the intensity of your love. Okay, but I was surprised to see that Shuib, the husband to Siti Sarah, was very calm. So because he already go through the process and he knows what's coming, probably. I don't know, probably. Okay, so the next step is bargaining. So what is bargaining? So you need to understand that when you are actually coping with loss, it isn't unusual to feel desperate, that you are willing to do almost anything to alleviate or minimize the pain. So you see, when I talk about this bargaining, I think of my own personal story. When we lost our brother, he was 7 years old, and I was about to fly to Australia to further my study. And I remember how I bargained with God. I said, please just heal my brother. Please let him live. Get him out of there. You know, just please allow him to live. so that my mom will be okay and I will be the sweetest girl on earth. That's what I do, you know. So when I recall back that feelings, I feel sad. You know, I feel that, oh my God, that feeling still stays in me. All right. So we always, when bargaining starts here to take place, what we do is we often direct our request to a higher power. Like I said, I start talking to God or something bigger that we are than we are, that maybe we thought could be able to influence a different outcome. Okay. So we might look back at our interactions with the person that we are losing and not at all of the times we felt disconnected that may have caused them pain. So we wish that they could come back, we could apologize, we can start all over again. So that's what bargaining is all about. So finally, the fourth stage is depression, when the dying person begins to understand that the certainty of death. Okay, this is the time when we calm down and start to look at the reality. We start to feel the loss of our loved one much more. And as our panic begins to subside, the emotional fog begins to clear, and the loss feels more present and unavoidable. So you will take charge of yourself when you realize that, yeah, he is gone. Okay, because of this. We will, at this stage, usually, I remember when my mom, she was cool about it. She doesn't want to go to the cemetery. She doesn't want to go. I was shocked because I thought she would want to go and, you know, say bid farewell to my little brother. She doesn't want to go. She was so calm. But when she wanted to, when she was about to go off to bed, she was very hysterical. Okay. And that caused us panic because she started to straight away go into depression because she saw how my brother was sick for several months. It was 3 months, okay? 3 months or 3 weeks, I'm so sorry. I think it was just 3 weeks. It was very fast spreading, okay? And she refused visitors. She doesn't want to talk. So what she did was just crying. So, and we allow her to grieve. We respect the process that she needs to grieve. So we want her to feel that, you know, this is normal, but you still need to get in touch with the reality. And finally, once she realized that acceptance, that she could finally, in Malay, we call it reda, yeah? So this is acceptance, which is often very confused with the notion of being all right or okay, okay? And with what has happened. So most people don't feel okay sebenarnya, yeah? Or all right about the loss of a loved one. I don't think so we can do that. There is never such thing as I feel okay because he's gone, okay? But probably we'll just say that because we are trying to, you know, put a brave front. But in reality, are we really feeling okay? But we know that somehow it is going to be okay. So this stage is about accepting the reality that our loved one is physically gone. And recognizing that this new reality is the permanent reality. I like it. I actually admire Shu'ib when he said to his children, when his children saw on TV and asked the father, is that really mom? Is she really gone? And we saw you at the cemetery on TV. Is that really you, daddy? Wow, I felt that if it's me, I would feel so overwhelmed because I was crying personally. But he said that he accept that and to put a brave face, okay, to put a brave face with the children. I think that's very important for him to do that for the sake of the children. But again, instead of denying the feelings that he is actually experiencing, he needs to at least listen to what his needs are, yeah. But then again, also realizing that he needs to move on for the sake of the children, okay. So don't worry about what you should be feeling. Should, must. So these are the strong words that we try to avoid, okay, because should be okay, I must be okay. We are not perfect, so we have to remember that, okay. All right. Just one last slide. Angie, if I may share, I'm going to make it quick, yeah. So I like these drawings. Next slide, please. We may. So this is how we make sense of our own grief. So This is drawings that I actually took from the illustrator Mary Andrew. So it's actually a hand-drawn image, and it shows 3 different bags in decreasing size. A huge burlap sack, that's just a burlap sack, a briefcase, and finally a small purse. And written on each bag is the word grief, if you notice. So the caption for the image actually shows her own experience of grief. So he said, she wrote that my father died 2 years ago. Today was a long time ago because I just quote this. So it's different for everyone. So we all need to understand that grief is different for everyone. It's from your own personal experiences. But the process of grieving, please, you need to note that the process of grieving begins as soon as you go through the crisis or the traumatic event. So how do you feel? You may feel unbearably overwhelming, like a giant 50-pound sack sitting on your shoulders. It's like somebody is sitting on you or putting something heavy on you, and you can't breathe. So most days, individuals who grieve will wake up noticing this heaviness inside them, that thinking that it can never go away. You know what I'm saying? So, but if you know and you feel that you need to move on and you realize that, so this is when, look at the second drawing, that grief did start to change somehow. Okay, so with the help of time, so that's when people kept saying time heals, it does in a way. And with the help of probably your support system or probably a good therapist, maybe a counselor, so that weight may be slightly lighter. It's no longer a 50-pound sack, but it's more really like a heavy tote bag. Okay, tote bag, just a tote bag. So grief exists, but it is not as overwhelming because, like I said, time heals. But finally, you can reach a period where grief may become more manageable, less overwhelming, and more a part of you rather than something that's being dumped upon you. So it is, you could actually feel that it is light enough, as light as your purse, to even wear that around you all the time, where most days you even forget that it's even there. So, but what I wanted to say, that sometimes you can still feel that as if the purse that you are carrying, instead of feeling light, you can still feel that there's a big rock inside it. So it depends on how you feel on that day. So what I have learned personally, okay, from the experience that I had with my brother, okay, and you know, because we are 2 different generations, he is the youngest, so you saw how much we put attention is all on him. And I realized that up to today, when we talk about this, so it's really difficult to talk about it because it will never go away. But I realized that it is manageable. You know, that knowing that we live, I can live with my grief. What about my mother? She feels it even worse. In Islam, it was said, sorry, I don't mean to preach, but I'm just sharing. In Islam, they said that the dugaan, the biggest dugaan is when you lost a child. Okay, so, and I saw that in my mom, how she was grieving. Okay, that closure, she got it because she was finally pregnant at the age of 45. Yeah, and people said that at the age is not safe, but she still wants to go through it. And this is when jealousy comes in. I got my little sister, because otherwise I'm the only girl in the family, but I'm glad she's finally okay. That's my mom, because she was in the brink of depression. And grief, please remember that grief does not discriminate, okay? It affects people from all ages and people from all walks of life. It doesn't care. And personally, I believe that the more we talk about it, the better we can actually understand ourselves and how we can actually move forward. Because I know that's how it has helped me by talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aziz. Let's go back to that sandbag, the bag of grief. I just want to, can we go back to the slide? Yeah, with the grief So Dr. Aziz, we can see from this picture, the grief has actually reduced in size from a big one to a medium size to a very small size. This actually also indicates that when we go through healing, It doesn't mean that our healing will come like all of a sudden from a big size to a small size. Even when there's gradual healing from scale 10 to 9 to 8 to eventually maybe to 2, that is also good healing for us, right?
True. It is a process. It is actually going through a process. Okay, sometimes you don't, when you said from 9 to 8, sometimes it's just 0.01. So it's still, at least you have lessened that. So lessened that grief. So I think it's a process. So it takes time. So for those people who are actually experiencing, divorce, it could actually be one area that we need to also look into. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing your beautiful story about the loss of your brother. I'm sure that it is never easy for us to go through losses, and it's never easy to even share our losses, despite the fact that it may have been years, or it may just happen. No matter what it is, it will bring us back to that sentiment. Yeah. Right, Dr. Aziz, could I just check, just ask you, apart from the 5 stages of grief, what are the feelings or are the symptoms that we have when we grieve?
Okay. Well, Angie, that's a very good question. So we all know that individuals who are actually grieving struggle with many intense and painful emotions. When talking about my own brother, and even Siti Sarah Raisuddin, I feel it. I can still feel it, because these painful emotions include depression. It still includes anger, maybe. Like, why does this happen to my family? Maybe. Okay, but we are now over it. We can accept it. Guilt. Maybe there was one time when I actually scolded my little brother, and I remember my mom scolded him too. So we're like, what were we doing at that point of time? So and profound sadness. So often, more than not, we also feel isolated and being alone in that grief. Yeah. So since the intense pain and difficult emotions, yeah, Angie, can actually make all of us feel very uncomfortable about offering support. When someone you care about is grieving after a loss, it can actually be difficult to know what to say or do. I remember when people come to my mom and they kept saying, Sabah, Sabah, Sabah. I'm one of them who actually, at that point of time, I do not have counseling background, yeah? Don't get me wrong. I'm one of them who said, can you please stop saying that? Because it's just so annoying, okay? It's just so annoying. You are not experiencing what we go through. You do not know the pain that my mom goes through. So you see, what was that? That was anger talking. Yeah. So what we need to do basically is we need to understand the grieving process. So I think you have actually understand in a way the 5 stages of grieving process. So you need to understand, all of us need to understand that there is no right or wrong way to grieve. Grief does not always unfold in orderly, predictable stages. That's why that stage is actually cyclical. It can always come back, yeah? It can actually be an emotional roller coaster with unpredictable highs, lows, and setbacks. So because all of us grieve differently, so stop saying that you should be feeling or doing this way, should be doing things this way or that way. So because like I said, people are being affected differently. Although like we said, we are now experiencing COVID-19. We are experiencing the same tsunami, the same crisis, but we are not riding the same boat. Okay, your boat, Angie, may be bigger than me, so you can last longer. My boat may be slightly smaller, but we have them out there who are actually on a small canoe, maybe, that can just stumble very easily. Yeah, so grief may involve extreme emotions. So like I said, feelings of guilt, anger, despair, and fear are common. So a grieving person may actually yell to heavens, obsess about death, lash out at loved ones, or cry for hours to end. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that they get all the reassurance to make them feel normal again. They can never feel that normalcy again, but at least we try. Okay, so don't judge. So take their grief reactions personally. Okay, so do not be upset with them, because we understand that they're actually going through this emotional ride. Okay, so there is no set timetable for grieving. I can't say, Angie, you're supposed to just be grieving for 8 days. I can't do that. Yeah, You remember that girl who, that 8 children who have lost their parents in merely 2-3 days, and how she is the most, she's the eldest, and she has to take care of all the younger brothers and sisters, and how she was really composed about it. But you need to understand, do conduct a need assessment. What is going on with them individually? Because each and every one of them have a different psychological makeup. The way how they feel, that they think, and how they react is different. Sadness, as we all know, is probably the most universal experiences, symptom of grief, where we cry, where we feel empty, where we feel despair. So, but what you need to do is, you could actually feel, when you are grieving, you can actually feel intense fears. Okay, so these are the most common feelings, emotional, and one of the another symptoms that you may feel are physical symptoms that may include fatigue, nausea, lowered immunity, weight loss, weight gain, and insomnia. So what you need to do is to bring them through that journey of feeling that physical pain that they go through, and respect that. Yeah, Angie?
Thank you for all the helpful tips to recognize and identify the feelings that we go through. And for someone who is going through loss, if we are journeying with them, how should we then behave, or what should we say to them, right? Thank you for all the handles. How can we, as you know now that we have loved ones or friends or relatives that are infected with COVID, and then they may be like Siti Sarah, they may be self-quarantined at home, then the next day they are admitted to the hospital, and then the next thing is they're gone. So how can we best prepare ourselves, or even our loved ones, if our loved ones or we ourselves are being admitted to the hospital for COVID? Because for all we know that it could be our last goodbye.
Yeah, I think this is a very difficult question for me to ask, because there's no right way or wrong. Okay, it depends on how you actually will handle it. But what I could say is, I would like to just again talk about how Shuaib does it with Siti Sarah. When you see, because we have been reciting this Yasin, yeah, and then I could see that every night he will be updating all of us. Okay, updating, and he'll be saying how excited he was when first he was very sad when the oxygen level goes down to 40, and then the very next day he was very excited because it kept climbing up. Okay, it kept climbing up 65, 70, and it stops at 80, and then the next day it plunged down again, and that's when we know at 5:13 in the morning that she just left all of us.
Yep.
So again, this is actually very difficult, because we need to understand that we have to experience, what I'm trying to say here is, we need to know that we might experience physical discomfort, emotional discomfort, because the first thing you see, when we talk about COVID-19, even when you are being diagnosed with close contact sahaja, just close contact, that's what I had experienced 5 times I think. I was telling Angie, I have to go through this. Okay, and when I knew that my friends actually, one of my friend, my best friend actually lost a mother, lost a father, lost a brother. It was also during Hari Raya, so that's more painful. So when I compare to her pain, so I am glad that I'm still, intact in a way. So I know that the fear is there, and the fear is real. Okay, the fear is real. So when people aren't physically present to say goodbye and grieve with other mourners, like in the case of Shuaib, yeah, in Siti Sarah, they may be more likely to experience what we call that as a sense of ambiguous loss. So what is ambiguous loss? This is very difficult to get closure, just like our MH370.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what happened compared to MH17? Because we know that, although it's very painful that the plane is being shot down, but we know that they could actually get closure, in the sense that they know that their loved ones, they could see, I don't mean to be harsh here, but the body parts, they can do DNA tests, they can still have that closure. But what about MH370? It's similar to pandemic COVID-19, when in the case of Shuib, I was actually this morning telling my husband and my children, you know, it's very sad when he did not explain to the children, well, I know why, I know what happened. So probably she doesn't want, he doesn't want the children to go through the pain. But when the children found out themselves, yeah, and I think that's more painful. And I'm just concerned that what happens in the future when they grow up? Will they be upset? Will they be angry because they are no longer in quarantine? Will they have not the chance to say goodbye to their mom? But I know he has good intention. So these are things that, you know, it can be, like I said, different people will comes with different experience. But just please, one thing that I want to share, be concerned, but not being overwhelmed with anxiety. It's easier said than done. But obviously, we are actually going to experience this. But what we need to do is to get all our family members intact. Because this is the time when I kept telling my students, I kept telling some of my clients and in my talk, so this is when we need each other. It's no longer about Malays, Chinese, Indians, no. It's all about the humanity. Okay, anyway, I'm married to a Chinese, yeah. So we are very, what I'm trying to say in my family, we have all races except African. So it gets very excited, siapa nak kahwin dengan African. But what I'm trying to say here is, say here is that we need to be united for the sake of our own humanity. So we need to be there to listen. We need to be there to be able to reassure our family members. So that's what we do. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Aziz. What are the practical things we can do to comfort those who lost their loved ones?
Okay. What I did with my mom. So to offer practical and ongoing assistance. Okay, until she finally got that baby, which is who is my sister. Finally, she was okay and she has closure in a way, but every time Hari Raya, she will start crying. Okay, so I know it's still there. But at least it is, like I said, it is difficult for many grieving people to ask or seek help. So they might actually feel guilty about receiving so much attention, perhaps. So the fear of being a burden to others. See, they are still having this empathy towards others. Or simply they are actually too depressed to reach out. So you need to identify. So basically a grieving person may not have the energy or motivation to call you when they need something. So instead of saying, let me know if there's anything I can do, make it easier for them by making specific suggestions. Okay, so like when I actually have my own dear neighbor, her husband has to travel overseas. Actually, he's working overseas, and she has 3 small little children. So whenever I go out, so I make it a point, I am going specific. I am going to my din. Okay, because if I go to Jaya Grocer, I know what she wants. She always want to buy butter. But in my din, we do not have the butter that she wants to have because she's also a baker. So I will specifically tell her, I'm going to my din. Do you need milk for your boys? Do you need this for your boys? So I will specific instead of let me know if you need anything. Probably it will just make them more embarrassed to actually ask us. And like this morning, yesterday, when someone sent me an abundance of fruits, I have lots of rambutan and pulasan. So without asking, I know we are all very fearful of COVID-19, yeah? So what I did is, my neighbors know I'm kiasu in that sense. I wash all of it with sabun. I do that. Angie knows I wash all my durian with soap too. So I wash all the pulasan and the rambutan, I dry it and I pack it nicely because we know we can't eat that much, so we share. Okay, so this practical help can probably help them, you know, make their life simple and make their life, you know, to know that somebody actually cares. Okay, or somebody really care and listen. So if you're actually able, try to be consistent in your offers of assistance. It's not just a one-time off. Try to be consistent. So the grieving person will know that you'll be there for as long as it takes, and you'll be there for as long as they know that you need them. Okay, no, rather they need you. Okay, so we need to understand that grief may never heal. Like I said earlier, it can be lighter, but it can never heal. But you can see from how I actually talk about my own brother, you can see that my voice goes, suddenly it's more softer compared to how I was in the beginning. So not everyone can get over it. So there's always this thing inside us that triggered, we call it that grief triggers. Okay, grief triggers. So certain, like for example, every time it is 26 May, it reminds me of his birthday. Okay, so then what can we do about it? So yeah, thank you, Angie. So I hope that explanation suffices.
So I'm hearing that being very consistent, if you do intend to help or support those who have lost their loved ones, number one is being consistent in our offer of help. And then in our offer, it have to be specific. That means we don't ask general question like, is there anything I can help? Because that person may be too shy or too depressed to ask us for help. And then if we know them well enough, we can actually suggest some specific offer, like, do you need this? I'm going here, I'm doing this. By the way, do you want me to just pick up something for you? That makes them feel very comfortable and not a burden to us. And at the same time, they are experiencing and feeling the support from us. Right? Yeah.
You're right.
That's very good practical things, because most of the time, I think most of us are even afraid to even talk to the person who has gone through a loss. We are so afraid that we don't know how to handle them, what more to ask them if they need any help. But these are good handles that we can actually be. I mean, if we genuinely want to be with them, if we genuinely want to help and support them, it's okay to just ask them and then ask specific questions, like make a specific offer so that they feel liked and they feel supported. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Now that a lot of us, when we go through losses, we are trying to find meaning to our loss.
Yeah.
That the loss of somebody, the death of this person must carry some meaning, and it will be an example or a good lesson for people to learn. We've tried to find meaning. What if we can't find meaning?
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah. So talk about meaningfulness in life. Yeah. It is very important for us to know that when someone is actually grieving, and when you have lost someone, so when you talk about how to move forward, so that's how I relate to meaningfulness in life. So that is also by one of the very well-known scholar, Viktor Frankl. So what we talk about is usually the meaningfulness, the search of meaning. So where you want to find fulfillment again, like I said, normalcy. Can you actually go back to being normal? Okay, so when you have lost somebody significant, it has actually dented your feelings. It have actually made marks. So probably your heart has been broken. So now you actually put it back together. Like when Eileen was telling me the elephant glue. Okay, can you actually put that together? So you want to put that together, you can still see the marks. So it will never be the same. But life has to go on. So in the case of Shu'aib earlier, when I told my husband and my children, we were actually discussing about it, when I told them that it is very important to know that, yes, we have lost someone, and to give meaning to the existence of that someone is by celebrating our life in a way. Because I always ask this question to my mom. Okay, Mom, okay, now that you are still here with us, yeah, Ma, call her Ma, Ma, now that you are still with us, if nama adik I Azwan, if Azwan is still around, what do you think that he wants from you? So I asked her that question. I asked my mom that question. She started crying. It took a long time. She didn't answer the first time. I keep on asking the same question again and again and again. And finally, when it slips, it's like the big diamond coming out from her mouth when she said that he wants me to be happy. And he started crying again. Then the next question is, define happiness. Because Angie, your happiness and my happiness is different. Your meaningfulness in life and my meaningfulness in life is probably different. So to find meaning is to find fulfillment. What is it that you want? So you see whatever happens to us during this pandemic COVID-19, because I always imagine that, you know, okay lah, I want to do this, nak extend lagi sikit rumah kot, nak kumpul duit, nak buat ni. But now I feel that, no, I don't need all that. So when all my children are now at home, I may be grieving if they're actually in college, because I remember when my girl was in college, I was so worried because of this pandemic. And you see, yeah, the teachers keep going in and out where they stay in hostel, but the fear, too much fear. So now when I actually reflect on what is it that I have in front of me that I have never appreciated before, maybe I appreciate less. So how do I make meaning to that? How do I give meaning? How do I give a label of a feeling to that? So this morning, today, actually I'm terribly busy. When am I not busy? Okay, that is also a question that I need to think of. So when my son came to me and said, here you go, mom, he made a simple thing, hash brown. So it really makes my day. So to me, that is meaningful. Okay, that is so meaningful. The little things that we forgot to appreciate. You see, what we need to do is tomorrow, promise me, all of you, go out there, get out with your mask on, obviously, just look up at the sky, okay? Look up at the sky and see what you see. And I don't know, just appreciate, okay? All right, thank you.
Living our life, it's also giving meaning in a way to the loss that we have.
Yes.
Right. Well, that is something, yes, that's something profound. To live our life, living it to the fullness, it's actually giving meaning also to the loss that we have.
If I may, I'm sorry, Angie, if I may add, we've got somebody that is very, you know, it's actually my client who kept saying that I lost my parents both to COVID, yeah? So he lost his parents both to COVID, and he said that he doesn't want to pursue his PhD anymore. He wants to stop at that, okay? So this dear friend of mine came to me and she asked me, Azzi, what am I supposed to do? I said, just ask him this one question. If mom and dad is here, so and looking at you, crying and you know, falling into depression, so what do you think they will tell you? Okay. So I'm glad that he's now continuing his PhD. So I think the rest is just history.
Right. Thank you for that. Do you think that there are positive things we gain from grief? Are there any positive things that we can gain from grief?
Yes, of course. Okay. So when we talk about positive things, yeah, grief can teach us many things. Yeah, it prepares us for coming to terms with our own mortality. Isn't that right? So it brings communities and families together. And I think what grief does to me, my family, is to help us more mature, to get us closer, to grow as one family. So it teaches us empathy and understanding so that we can be more caring to others. I think grief creates that attitude, okay, Angie? It helps us to create attitude and also that gratitude, okay, that attitude of empathy. Having that is sufficient. So it reminds us of what we still have and what we don't have. But when we compare to those who are actually lagi susah dari kita, kan? So it makes us reflect. So how we should proceed in our lives, yeah? And when we grieve, we often reflect on ourselves. Like I said, I reflected on myself. So every time if I heard somebody passed on, I will be crying too with them. Can counselors cry? Why not? We are not robots. We are human beings. Okay. All right. So how we can adjust our schedules to do so, meanings like, because we have actually spent time with our loved one before. So now you need to manage your time. You need to reschedule your life. So what are the other important things that you should focus in your way, in your own way to survive? Okay. So, well, I think it is very important for you to know that grief teaches all of us the purpose in life. Yeah, and what we can do for ourselves, what we can do for Ummah, or what we can do for our loved ones who are still with us. So that's how I think that it could actually have positive things that have helped many. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, that will lead me to the last question that I have. The very fact that we cannot really attend, or we are not allowed rather to attend funerals due to the SOP, especially during the full lockdown. But we want to grieve together with our friends and our relatives. But just because of the SOP, we are not allowed to. And what are the ways, practical ways that we can do to actually to be with them and to show that we are with you?
Yeah. Yeah, when like I said, I have actually been together with all my clients who have actually experienced grief. Yeah, so attending or just being with them to support them is actually showing a way of concern. Yeah, showing support. Yeah, but now we can't do that. It's not possible. But when I saw that there are about more than 50 people that gathers around Sarah's during her orang kata apa tu she's about to be sent off lah. So I think that is still showing support, and there are a lot of others that actually show support online. Okay, through the Facebook videos, through the Instagram, that is still a way to actually provide your client or your people that you love to show support. So, but what I'm trying to say is we can actually, again, offer practical help, like what I've shared earlier, to help lessen their burden and listen compassionately if they need someone to talk to. So basically, if you are unable to be physically there with them, you are still able to offer help to make the grieving process easier for them. And I like it earlier when you say it's difficult, and I also mentioned that earlier, it's difficult to say the right word to someone that's grieving. You see, this is a real story. When my friend, she called me one day, she said, Azzi, I don't know who to turn to. I only have you. So, and I'm in the hospital now. And you know about the passing of my mom and my brother. So now I'm in the hospital. At that point of time, okay, I was like inside me, panicking. I really don't know what to say to a grieving person and what to say to a person that is with COVID positive, who are COVID positive, and actually who is actually being hospitalized. Okay, so I straight away told her directly, I said, babe, I really am lost for word. I know that you are grieving and I know you are going through a lot. And I'm sorry if I really don't know what to say, but one thing that I want you to know is I really appreciate you coming to me, and I really appreciate you, talking about this, and I will always be here, and I love you. That's all I say. I didn't say sabar. I didn't say anything else because I remember telling of the people during my brother's demise when they said sabar, sabar to my mom, and my mom kept crying. So I said, stop saying that, it's very annoying. Then I never push her, but instead, all she wants from me is just for a dear friend to just keep in touch with her. So what I do is I will usually text her. I said, do you feel like talking? Because then after a while, she didn't answer. I will start sending her messages of love and not about anything positive all the time. Okay, because I don't want to create that toxic positivity. But what I do, I send about how I understand that what she goes through, the emotions, that she have to learn to accept the death of her loved ones. Okay, and I know that by retelling her story, and I know she could actually lessen the pain that she goes through, and I know by listening to her, it helps her to heal. So it's okay that we can actually let the grieving person know that it's okay for them to cry. Okay, but I always add this, do you know that if you cry, your eye will sparkle and you will look beautiful. So it's okay to cry. For them to get angry, I always tell her, babe, kalau you marah I. It's okay, just marah. Let go, babe. Let go the feeling. Let just that feelings yang you marah dalam tu, yang simpan tu, let it go. Okay. And I'm a bit cheeky all the time because I like to include humor. So I will sing the Elsa song. Okay. Let it go, let it go. And she start giggling. But I know it's very painful for her. So don't ever try to reason with them over how they should or shouldn't feel. Like I've actually said that earlier. So however, it is also very important that you being there with them online, WhatsApp video call or whatever, FaceTime, it's sufficient. Okay. So that is also can be an exchange of a squeeze of the hand, a reassuring hug, and I think that's sufficient.
I'm hearing that it's very important when we want to support them, it's being with them. And being with them takes many forms, need not be just a physical presence since we're not allowed to. Being with them can mean sending messages, sending texts, sending love messages, not the motivational talk, the messages, and even telling when listening to them and giving them the time, the space to cry, to grieve, listening to them and telling them that even it's okay to say that I don't know what to say. Because I think a lot of us will feel awkward when we have nothing to say. We are so afraid of the silence moment and we will just try to avoid it. But now, today I'm learning that it's totally okay to be with your friend and say that I don't know what to say. And it is also, you know, there are things that maybe words that we shouldn't use. It's like you have to be strong. Because
not yet. That's too fast. Yeah.
Dr. Aziz, what would your advice be if someone has gone through that loss and continues to be in chronic grief?
Again, I will actually bring them through the process, okay? Because like I said, it is very important for them to go through that denial stage first and then anger stage. It's not just about acceptance. It can be a long time. I remember that one of my friend, she suffered from divorce and it took her 8 years to be okay. 8 years. And then she remarries and she thought that 8 years was okay. I mean, it was an emotional turmoil, 8 years. And after she got married, and she thought it was okay. But 10 years down the road, she was actually blaming the current husband, or maybe 6 or 8 years down the road, blaming the current husband that, all men are the same, okay? Until the ex-husband passed on. That's when she finally realized that, oh my God, that's closure. Okay, why? Because she has not been talking about that anger that she has felt, and she allowed herself to stay with that feeling. She put a brave front, but she never dealt with her anger. She never dealt with all whatever feelings that she had with the ex, and she brought it over in the new marriage, thinking that this new marriage will help her. But fortunately for her, that the husband was really calm, cool, and collected. Allow her to experience that grief, but finally, if it's not being taken care of, and what if again, what I'm trying to say here, what if you do not get the support? If you have that good support system, and do not make others as your punching bag. So you need to get hold of that feeling. Okay, because if you are actually, I understand that sometimes grief can be prolonged. So it takes time to heal. Like I said, my friend, 8 years, my client, 8 years plus another 10 years, is 18 years, okay, of anger. Finally, the ex-husband passed on and she was okay. Finally, she realized that, God, so she goes through that. So that feeling of 18 years of raising 3 children, of that 18 years of anger, what has that made her? So fortunately, like I said, she's married. She has a husband that's really understanding. But what about those who actually stays in with that feeling? So you will fall into the abyss of depression. And this will lead to what we worry of is, of course, mental disorder. And this will lead you to having suicidal thoughts maybe, and after that attempts maybe, that suicidal ideation. So we are concerned. So what I would like to suggest, but I don't do suggestions, but I would like you to do is to ensure that these people, you bring them to seek help, please, to ensure that they are actually being helped. Allow the professional helpers to guide them through that journey of going through with their, what you call that, grief. Yeah.
Yeah, when we are in such a state where we cannot help ourselves, I think it's what you have pointed is so right. He pointed out that it is so important that we get help, especially professional help, so that we can be better and we can progress on.
True.
Right. I'm just going to take some questions from the participants. First question we will have is, how do young children manifest grief and how can they be helped?
Okay, I am going to tell you a story. I'm a storyteller. Okay, so I have actually helped many children who have actually gone through grief because parents always thought that children can adapt. Okay, adults, I wouldn't say parents, adults always think. So they have this misconception or myth that thinking that children will adapt. Okay, so this is when you do not ensure that they seek help, professional help. What happens is they will fall into the adjustment disorder. And then if it's prolonged, adjustment disorder ni, kita risau falls into depression and grief. It's a result of grief. What happened is I have seen one client, actually a mom is actually a friend of mine. So I was telling her, I'm just going to use babe again, yeah, babe, please, I noticed that there are some behavioral change in your two children. Okay, so please take note of this. So I can't do this on your family because we are friends. So what I would like to suggest to go to my friend, I check out. So she is a counselor and she's very good. And she uses play therapy because budak-budak kan, so to express. So play therapy is good. So please, you can see the anger in her daughter, which used to be so sweet. She can just take her math book and just throw it up, show tantrum. Okay, so probably how they actually externalize their feelings by showing that they're upset and angry. She doesn't want to go to school. She calls the teacher stupid and all the bad names, which she doesn't behave that way. Okay, you see, she become rebellious. So I kept telling her, please, no. She said, no lah, it's okay, it's okay. So finally, 2 years down the road, she finally called me and said, Aizi, I think you are right. This has happened for 2 years. And she finally said that, Aizi, I need to do something about my daughter because my son is now showing the same behavior of rebellious. I can't go and say, look, I've been telling you 2 years ago, why didn't you? I can't do that. So I said, no worries. You can still amend this. Please go and see my friend now. And I said, you can also do pet therapy. So they have cats because it helps to release, or when they are stroking the cats, right? Or because we are Muslim, we cannot have dogs. So whatever pets that you want to have, so you can stroke the cat or the dog or whatever lah. So that could actually help you to externalize that anger. It helps you to calm down. Okay, so yeah, and she did that. Finally, she realized, yeah, I have been having this, and see if my children are not okay, how it affects me is she was having anxiety. She was on the brink of depression herself, and her work deteriorates. She was somebody in orang kata tu oil and gas company, very prominent. I think you know what prominent oil and gas company is. And she came to me, she said, I have problems with this work, blah, blah, blah. I said, let's go back to your issue at home. So then she will realize that it all started off with the passing of the husband, and she doesn't attend to the children's need. So be careful there. So that's why I was talking to my children. Okay, so you see how the manifestation of behavior on Shuib's children, for now, still okay. But I do hope that these children seeks help. Okay. He could actually send them for, probably play therapy or something to let them, let the feelings out, because else I'm just concerned about the rebelliousness that may arise or may be shown the symptoms. Yeah. Thank you.
I think professional help, sending children to, especially younger ones, to play therapy, pet therapy, will definitely help them release that whatever is inside, and that will help a great deal.
Yeah.
Right. The next question, if for the participants that we have, if you have any questions, you can actually type in the chat box. We will try to bring out your questions so that Dr. Aziz can, in her professional capacity, help in this area. The next question we have is, if someone has a hatred over their loved ones on their death, will they still grieve?
Okay, I saw this question earlier, and I think this comes from Alex, right? Yeah, because I saw this question. Hi, Alex, I can see you now. Okay, this is something that's, I know that it's quite difficult, because you have this, I'm not referring to you, but you here means whoever that is, yeah? That person may have harbor anger or hatred towards someone. And here, it's always, okay, it's always, I can refer to cases that I have with the younger ones towards the elderlies, their elderlies, okay? And this is when the passing of the elders, and this is when they say that, okay, fine, he's gone, so I'm gonna be okay. But in real life, when we go through the process, they actually are grieving too, because that's when they realize that things are not settled. Okay, things are not settled. So you are actually probably, it depends on situation, yeah, Alex. I'm not trying to generalize here, but then again, you may experience this grief. Okay, but grief here refers to that the anger that you harbored towards them that is not being let out, and probably you have this sense of guilt, like, oh my God, I wish I could have done that. I'm not sure, but I wish I could have done that. I wish I could just, bid farewell. And I know that at least kita selalu risau kan, kalau they bring it to their grave, that at least they are okay. They're okay. So they're not, sometimes when we say bila pergi tu biarlah dengan perasaan yang tenang, right? So you feel, you will feel at ease knowing that. So again, grief here, maybe it is different compared to, especially when you said that, like I said, grief is experienced differently from people. So it depends on how you look at it. Some are probably, they think that it's okay. So she's gone or he's gone, that's it. But at the end of the day, it will take a toll on that person because the anger that is within them. So no matter what, we counselors would like to suggest for this to be solved. Yeah, betul tak, Elaine? So we will always talk about how you need to solve that anger in you, within you, let it out. Yeah. Alex, are you okay? All right, great.
Next question will be the last question. I know our parents in their 80s are getting feeble rapidly. I tend to sense grief as I know they will be leaving soon. Is this normal? I don't want to face the day they left. How can I get out of it?
I know this is from Jo Tong. Yeah, I tend to sense grief as I know they will be leaving. Okay, this is normal. Okay, I have a student who had a mom who have been sick for quite a long time, and I actually really respect him. He didn't get married at all because he says that he doesn't want mom to worry about, kadang-kadang ibu mertua and the relationship that they have with the in-laws, right? So, and I thought that, I don't want to judge, but I thought that's very sweet of him to care for the mom until till the deathbed, and she finally passed on like 2 months ago due to chronic illness, critical illness. So I think that yes, he always comes to me and said, he's also one of our counseling students. He always come to me and said that, Tata Aziz, am I grieving now? I said, that's how, let's look at it differently. Okay, it is not about grieving yet. It's probably because you are concerned. Okay, you are worried. All right. But at the end of the day, you need to know that you need to be prepared because mom is already in a very critical condition. So again, how do you prepare yourself for that day to come? Okay, so we always fear. Okay, memang this is normal. It is valid for you to feel that way. Okay, so it is normal to feel worried, for you to fear. So what will happen if they're no longer around? How are you going to survive with that? You're going to miss them, with that emotional burden that you're actually going to feel. Yeah, but you have to remember all living things are going to leave us. So that's for sure. Okay, that's for sure. So you need to be able to how to say this? You need to be able to deal with that day when it comes. So what are the steps that you can do for yourself? Yeah, what are the things that you could actually do? So I know it is difficult because when we found out that my brother actually had brain cancer, it was 3 weeks. It's not 3 months. So because I was asking my mother, Mom, 3 months or 3 weeks on handphone tadi. So then she was saying 3 weeks. It was very fast. And in a way, we thank God because we saw that 3 weeks, he really suffered. He was just 7 years old. He really suffered. So with a lot of things happened, and it was really sad to see all the family members were all crying every day, were doing nothing, ada yang tak makan, you see. So in a way, it ends his misery. I'm not saying that we are jahat here, no, but in a way, we are glad that he has lived us peacefully and gone someplace better. So I always think about the place that he is now. Okay, so that makes us look at things differently because mungkin most of us believe in heaven, kan, the paradise. So we all want to be there. So yeah, so that's how we look at things. So this is when spiritual comes in lah. Yeah, I hope that suffices, yeah, Jotang.
Thank you, Dr. Aziz, for all the good pointers and good handles that will help us through our journey of grief, and definitely will, because I think a lot of us have no experience how to handle grief, and I think all these practical tips that will help us through this journey of grief. Right. We have come to a close to the end. We have come to the end of the session. Before maybe you just. Dr. Aziz, you can just hang on for a while.
Sure.
Are we having some breakout rooms? If you have got any questions, you can actually put in, and our virtual support will put you in a breakout room with our licensed counselor, Elaine from Eirini. She will be able to assist in your questions, right? Because we really appreciate your questions, because I think it takes a lot to ask questions about grief, right? Thank you so much, Dr. Aziz, for tonight, and we really appreciate the time spent and all the insight that you gave.
Angie, if you don't mind, if I can answer Alex's question, I think the question is very interesting. How can I help? Yeah, Alex, how can I help teenagers whom face both parents abandon them due to divorce and new marriages? I think, Alex, this is the thing that I actually dealt with a lot. Yeah, because my work is basically on women and families and children, and I work closely with children at risk behavior. So I do understand that it is actually a very difficult stage. Yeah, because teenager in a family life cycle is the most difficult stage for you, us parents to handle, because these are the raging hormones. These are the things, yeah, that you need to be able to understand, and they're looking for their own personality, and they'll be questioning why my mom abandoned me, what happened, why they actually get into new marriages and they abandon me. Okay, that's not fair. So a lot of questions that you need to go through. So probably Alex, you can actually talk to me personally. Nanti maybe Angie can pass my number to Alex. I can actually help him on how best to speak to teenagers with this kind of issues. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr.
Alex.
Azzi. Thank you for being so kind and generous to want to help out. That's really wonderful.